Hello again. Welcome back to episode 30 of the Pregame Network podcast. This is Dan and Anthony again. We were going to have Joe, but the time didn't work out, so
He'll be
just the
back
two of us again,
eventually, I guess.
eventually. Um, so I definitely have a little bit more to talk about this week. I sent you some pictures earlier today, or 2 days ago or something, that,
Yes.
I mean, you know where I'm going with this, but
Oh,
I'm very
absolutely.
excited to Uh, but before we do that, uh, I am gonna you go first as far as what you've been playing because what I have been playing, I like it's gonna kind of lead into um like what I want to talk about.
Okay, that's perfectly fine.
Oh,
Well,
go for it.
yeah, I mean, as far as I've been playing, I'm still making my way through Dragon Age Origins. Still hasn't quite caught me. I'm gonna give it
How's
a
that
little
going?
bit more. It's it's fine. I'm not. I don't. I don't hate it. It's just it's still not. There's no hook. I'm still not completely there, and that at a certain point, I'm probably gonna lose interest at this rate. But maybe I just need to put a little bit more time into it because I haven't been sitting there as playing that as my only game, right? I'm still jumping between different things. But we'll see where that goes. One more week I'll give it, before I call it or
Mhm.
I'm finally like grasped, or just I'm finally in and I'm just,
I don't think it's
playing
gonna
less.
grasp you
Well,
at
we'll
this
see.
rate.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Other than that, the fighting game stuff, typical stuff. A lot of Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, and Tatsunoko versus Capcom. And then aside from that, I've been jumping around. I don't know. I feel like I've really wanted to play some Sonic lately. I've been in a Sonic mood. So I've just
That's
been
okay.
yeah.
Weird craving.
I have a shit ton on both my Steam library and my Xbox library. So I've just been jumping between classics and some of the newer games from the 6th and 7th gen. Just I've been enjoying it.
Mm.
Uh, the only real game that stood out to me that was like different is I played this game on Game Pass, which because I just like to I've mentioned this once. I like to go in and I like to randomly try some shit on there sometimes. And I
Right.
downloaded this one a while ago called Go Mecha Ball or something like that. Go
Sounds
Mecha Ball, I think it's
Japanese.
called. I don't think it is. I think it's an American company. I think. Anyway, that's besides the point. I downloaded it on a whim. I knew nothing about it. I went in blind, and I was really thrown by like how quality the game looks. If that makes sense, like
Okay.
it's all the animations are smooth. It's colorful. The music wasn't at all what I was expecting. It's a quality experience, but
Nice when things have polish.
it is. But I got fucking like I haven't stopped playing it yet because I think there's a little bit more to it. But as soon as I beat one level in it, it
Hmm.
hit me. I'm just like, oh fuck, this is a roguelike. And I leaned back in my chair. I'm just like, no. And
It
I
got you.
like here's the thing. I didn't like sit there and hate it on principle, right? Because I'm not like that. If I'm enjoying a game, I'm enjoying a game. I'm not gonna be that guy that goes like, ew, you're in the wrong genre. But it's just like it immediately sapped some of my enjoyment because I'm just like I know how this is gonna go, and over the next couple levels or whatever, that's exactly what I got out of it. My understanding is that there is more progression to it. Like there's an actual like game to play, so I'll probably stick with it a little bit more. But all I gotta really say about it is that it is a really fun twin stick shooter to the point where I'd actually recommend that you go and try it if you get a
It's called
chance.
Mecha Ball.
Go Mecha Ball.
Oh, Mecha Ball.
Yeah, it's a roguelike twin stick shooter, and the whole gimmick is like you're either shooting and running around, or you
It
go into
looks
like
cool.
this. Yeah, you like roll into things or you roll around. There's a lot of cool movement that you can do in it. So I was enjoying it quite a bit. It's just I'm a little put off by the roguelike. I know you aren't, so you'd probably get a little bit more out of it. Regardless of what I do, I'll probably end up playing more of it, but you'd probably get a kick out
Yeah,
of it.
like
So it
I
was a lot
kind
of
of hit
fun.
the end of my rope with certain
Yeah.
roguelikes. Like eventually, like
Yeah.
I was playing Witchfire for a little bit, and
Hmm.
then I just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Um, so like I'm like, oh, this is fun, and then I'll play it for a little while, and then
Yeah.
if I hit a wall and I'm not gonna get past it, or it's gonna take me a while to master the mechanics in order to get past it. I'm just like, I guess I'll just go play something else. So that's my
Yeah.
struggle with the roguelikes.
But what I'll say is, like, I'm not sitting there going, "Oh, you love these things." I'm just saying, like, you won't hit that same
Oh
wall that
yeah.
I did, so you won't have that distaste for it. And I thought it, I think you'll appreciate it more than me, regardless of what I end up doing with it. It oddly
Mm.
enough, because of how like fun the movement is, where you're rolling around and jumping, it reminded me of an old Sonic game called Sonic 3D Blast, which is like an isometric Sonic game. And I'm just like, "Ooh, I like that game, so I like this." So,
So
but yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. It
neuron
is.
activation.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, this I was definitely surprised by Go Mecha Bowl. If I end up sticking with it, if my enjoyment keeps up, I'll probably actually end up doing a video on it. I was that pleasantly surprised
Wow. Okay.
by like how it presents itself and how the gameplay just feels. Aside from like the foundation and the structure of roguelike, which I just can't do. Everything else about it, it's well put together, and I appreciate that. So we'll
That is
see where it goes
that's a
from
high
there.
compliment coming from you,
Yeah,
especially.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Um, as far as I go, as the games that I've been playing recently, I played a little bit more Dark Tide. You know how I feel about Dark
Yeah.
Tide. I'll always go back to it. It's a really good time for me.
Mhm.
Um, I played like a a match or a session of Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, just because
Hmm.
they added more stuff. I kind of jumped in to see what it was about. I didn't really play it for that long, but I just wanted to. I feel like it was worth bringing up. More Black Ops 6. Like I said, I really enjoy the zombies mode. And season one launched today. Not that that like makes a difference because all the zombie content isn't coming until like December, I think, or something like
But
that.
but as you
But
you mentioned the other day, the balance patch for zombies should be out now, so that means
oh
ARs are
yeah,
doing a bit more damage, right?
yeah. So I mean, I'll probably try that out a little bit later on
Yeah.
tonight. That'll make the whole AR experience more enjoyable. But that is correct. The major sweeping balance patch uh, it launched today with season one, so that's cool. And the other thing that I've been playing a lot of is I went back and I finally installed emulators on my PC, and
Eh.
I have been replaying Jack 2, and the I started playing Ratchet and Clank Going Commando today, actually.
Hmm.
Um, I I miss those games so much. Like I can't overstate enough by just like the overwhelming feeling of nostalgia that I got when the Jack 2 title screen came up and it was running
Hmm.
flawlessly and it was
Eh.
at full resolution at 120 frames running like I said flawlessly. I'm like 5 hours into it now and it's just as good as I remember it back when we were what
Oh, we
12.
were we were we were young. We were very
Yeah,
young.
it was. Yeah, so that was such a pleasant turn of events in my game time that I am finally putzing around with emulators, and
And going back
I
to the old
still
good
own my
stuff.
copy of Jack 2 and 3. So it's
Yeah.
not like I was running around on seedy parts of the internet. Uh,
Yeah.
I I definitely still own my hard copy of those games.
Uh,
So
I,
I
it,
oh so good. Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
funny, like, aside from you just telling me how you feel, and obviously you were sending me like you were sending me pictures of you sitting
I
in
was
front
so
of your
pumped.
computer, but it
Yeah.
was it's there is a notable change in your tone of voice when you started talking about this. There's like a light elation in how you're
Yeah.
talking, where I'm just like, he's back.
Yeah, it, the quality of life stuff that you would expect from like a modern open world game, they're not there, obviously,
Yeah.
but I don't care if I have to fly across Haven City, it just feels good to be there. Um, it and I just want to experience the Jack story all over again. Like I haven't played it in over a decade, I would say.
Yeah,
So
it's probably been a while.
it's pretty like I know what happens and I know all the main story beats, but it's pretty refreshing to go back and experience all the little nuances of the characters in the story. And I didn't pick up on this when I was younger, when I originally played Jack 2, but Daxter is just, I think I said this to you before, he's a fucking pussy hound. Like he just doesn't, it's every time he sees a woman in this game, he says something. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
hilarious. I didn't even put two and two together in 2004 or 2003 when the game came out, and I played through it originally. Like it's overt, like it's not even
Yeah,
subtle.
it's yeah.
Naughty Dog was not trying to hide it, which is ironic because given how Naughty Dog treats all of their games and characters now,
Yeah.
they would never get away with that shit now. Um, but yeah, so Jack 2 is it actually runs natively. It's not so Jack 2 and 3 specifically, they there's a group of developers that recompiled the Go language,
Mhm.
and it's now running natively on Windows. It's not emulation. They've
Okay.
developed their own launcher, and as long as you have your own ISO, which I still do, you can run it, or you can rip it to your computer and then load it into the launcher. Um, it'll load all the files, and then it just works perfectly.
Yeah, there's a few games though over the years that have like gone that extra mile where it's like, there's plenty of emulators and options out there, but there are a few games that just have that base around them that have spent time decompiling and making it run natively. And luckily
Well, no,
enough,
these
I
are like a group of fans that did this.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like a group around them, a group of fans that would go and do this for that. And actually wasn't even aware that Jack and Daxter had received that treatment. Like I know that there's a few
Yeah.
Nintendo games that are like that, and there's a few certain PlayStation titles that have gotten that treatment from fans. But I was not
Yeah, it's
aware that.
called
Yeah.
Open Goal. That's the name
Yeah.
of the project. And Jack 3 is not it's not out yet. Actually, I have the launcher up in front of me right now. It says Jack 3 is currently in development. So
Hmm.
they're working on decompiling the files for the base game. I guess now it's supposed to be out like soon-ish. I think probably sometime early next year, but I'm really excited to play through that as well because I think I'm probably maybe a little bit less or just about halfway through Jack 2 at this point. I don't
Hmm.
remember how long the game was in total. Well, oh, you know what? Like when you load your game, it tells you how much the percentage you completed. I
Yeah.
think it was at
There's
like
different.
45.
Yeah, there's different percentages you can check when you load the files, and also just like there's a status screen I remember on the menu somewhere that you can check.
Yeah. So I'm halfway through Jack 2 and I started Ratchet and Clank going commando today. I also downloaded and was able to start Ratchet Deadlocked. I didn't remember that that was not a quote unquote Ratchet and Clank game. It's just Ratchet Deadlocked.
Yeah, it's
It was like almost like a spin-off. It's weird.
it is still technically like it's full on in the continuity, but
Yeah.
the gameplay is obviously very similar, but the whole thing with that is like the structure of the levels and how you progress
It's
through
all a
them.
giant game show. Like it's
Yeah,
not
it's
really like a cohesive story.
yeah, the first three Ratchet and Clank games were, fly to different worlds, do different missions. Ratchet Deadlocked is just it's like a mission to mission structure kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Which
which
I'm
is
fine with. It's
yeah,
still
yeah.
fun.
I'm the guy. I enjoyed Deadlocked for what it was.
I mean, me
Obviously
too.
you were
Yeah.
bigger into Ratchet and Clank than I was back then, but I still had the games and whatnot, and I was
Which
definitely.
Which Ratchet and Clank game did you make me go and collect all of those crystals? Do you remember that?
First of all, I will have you know that
Oh,
we
here we
traded
go.
back and forth. It was not slave labor as you're fucking building it up to be. And that should be easy to find out, just because obviously only one game has that level.
Does it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
hold
I
on.
don't. It had to have been like
It's
up your
probably
arsenal
missing.
or going. I don't think it was going commando. It might have been.
Oh, here we go. If I type in Ratchet and Clank Desert Crystals, this is like the first autofill. Let's see.
I'm gonna need to know the answer to this now.
Going Commando.
It is going. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the one. Yeah, that's the one that I started today.
God, we spent
Um,
because we
so much
used to,
time.
like all the like every couple weeks or so we would just hang out and we would
Yeah.
stay over each other's houses, and one of those nights it was literally just like, all right, let's collect these
Go
fucking
hunker down and do
crystals.
this. Oh my
Yeah,
God, I missed that.
yeah,
Uh,
a lot of
so
fun.
anyway, like the whole topic that it kind of leads me into is that of nostalgia slash like the way that games are made now.
Mhm.
In the handful of games that I have been playing this week from that era, it is so painfully obvious to me that like we could not have fallen farther from what gaming used to be.
Yeah,
It's everything is a part-time job now. Every game, and I know we've kind of spoken about this loosely before, but like it hasn't really hit me until this week when I started playing these older games. Like it's really, really bad,
Yeah.
really bad. Um, you would buy a game in 2001, 2, and 3, up until I would say 2010, probably, maybe a little bit later, that you pay $50 or $60 for it. You'd get a full product. It would work out of the box. You wouldn't need a patch, and it was a complete thing. You didn't need to wait until the developers fix something. You didn't
Hmm.
need to download extra or like a day one patch. I guess it's really the same thing, but it it just it has a different feeling of those older games versus what we put up with now, what we as the community accept, and
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say, it just fucking bothers me at this point.
Yeah.
Like I'm more inclined now, like this past week, to go to my computer and open up my emulators now
I
and play
that's
these older games.
I've been trying to get you there for how long?
Years.
Yeah, older games are the way to go. Just for multiple reasons. First, they're higher quality as a whole. I don't want to rule out you because there are some good examples of games that come out nowadays. You don't really hear about them, and sometimes you need to dig a bit. But there are sometimes games that come out that are worth your time and respect your time and are quality experiences that are just made as either passion projects or actual examples of something you would see as far as reasoning and why some what's the word I'm looking for, motivated by
Okay.
the same kind of stuff you would see back then. And they exist, they're out there, you can still find them, but it's when in doubt, you just got to go back and play some of the games you missed or some of the games you haven't played in a while, just
Yeah.
because
I'm so
it
happy
is.
that I took that
Yeah,
plunge too.
yeah, and I'm glad you're going back and trying these games that we remember from when we were kids. Even though I would have liked if you
But the
started with Jack and Daxter instead of Jack 2, but I get it,
Oh, I've played through Jack and Daxter more than I've played through Jack 2 and 3, so might give myself a pass on that one. So you could
Have you
fuck off.
really?
Yeah, 100%.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought it
because
would have
over
been
the years I've bought every
the
Jack and
collections and
Daxter
stuff like that.
collections, yeah,
Yeah.
like throughout the console generations.
Mhm.
So I have definitely played more Jack and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy um than the other two games. So I gave myself a pass on that one. I
I'll give you a
haven't touched.
pass.
Gee, thanks, buddy.
No, because I always thought like it's kind of like a Mass Effect situation where you're always inclined to skip over one. I thought that's how you felt about Jack 1
No,
also.
no, not at all.
Okay.
I like Jack and Daxter one it's I think you said this like a year or months ago, but like it's a platforming masterpiece. Like yeah, the
Yes.
protagonist doesn't speak, but the gameplay, the story, the art direction, everything is just fucking perfect.
Yes.
And it's
I think I
as good a
said.
platformer as like Mario is.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what I said. I think I said that I would argue it's probably the best platformer Sony ever published,
Yeah.
in my
Um,
opinion.
And I've always maintained the opinion that like the Jack series, or I guess Jack as a character, he kind of grew up as I grew up. Like
Yeah,
in the
that's a good way
first
to put it.
game, he was very young, he didn't talk, everything was very innocent and lighthearted. In the second game, they start to use some profanity, you get weapons, like it's a much more darker, it's a much darker tone. The story is more mature, and then in Jack 3, it's like the prodigal son returns type of thing. And from game one to game three, like it just evolved more and more. And I absolutely love that series because of that. And also because, like I said, I got older as the games came out, obviously, so I was able to appreciate them more.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, going back to my original point, like I am enjoying myself immensely with these emulators now. And like I really unless like I just wanna play Dark Tide or something like that, there hasn't been a game this week that's like I should just go and play this because I want to earn this item and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, I just want to go back and play the games from my childhood because they make me feel
Yes.
warm and fuzzy inside. And
No, that's
that's been it.
good.
Yeah.
That's the way to play.
Yeah.
But
Um
like you mentioned that there's like a different feel, and it's not just about respecting your time and everything, but it's something that I've actually that I've always thought of. But there's multiple reasons why that's the case. Like it's people have been bringing this up, especially with Veilguard, which just came out, where people are kind of looking back at like BioWare as a company and where things changed, because BioWare's been around for a while. You know, like the tail end of the games that we're talking about is where these companies and these other games kind of started, and they were obviously quality too. But it's you see a point in time, and you can see this with a lot of different companies. It's not just, you know, these particular American-based ones, where at a certain point, you know, for one reason or the other, they started targeting different audiences, or they had different focuses. And, you know, some people blame it on Call of Duty. Some people blame it on all the people that kind of infested the industry after Gamergate. Some people blame it on, you know, corporate overreach. And the realistic thing is that it's really, all of them are to blame one way or the other. But you can see in these interviews where these guys kind of lost their way, you know, where it's just like at a certain point, it wasn't about like, what's this cool idea? What can we do? It's like, okay, well, this game didn't appeal to enough people, so where can we go from there? And then after that point, it became, we now have somewhat of an audience. How can we keep them hooked? What are the incentives to keep them there? You know?
Yeah, it's a shame. It
Yeah.
really is, because the games that we grew up with playing, they were made because someone wanted to make a really good game, and that's exactly what came out of the other end of the development process.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that anymore. So,
Yep.
I mean, I think eventually we'll circle back around to that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bubble will burst eventually, but
I
right now
agree.
that we're still kind of in the thick of it. I think we're heading towards the end a little bit, which kind of brings me to our next topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to bring it up now, otherwise I'm never gonna fucking remember it. Concord. Okay,
Yes.
have we?
we
Okay,
we
we
fucking
have
forgot to
officially
talk about this like
we've
two,
officially
three
been
weeks in a
talking
row.
about Concord longer than it has existed. I just want to point that out.
That's very true. But yeah, we meant to comment on the fact that they actually, you know, pulled the plug on Concord and Firewalk permanently.
Yeah.
We somehow missed that. Was it 2 weeks at this point, or was
And
it 3
Secret
weeks?
Level is still getting their Concord episode, which
That
I
is
think is
so
fucking
hysterical.
hilarious.
That is so fucking
Hilarious.
hysterical. I personally, I'm curious to see if they're gonna do some fucking cheesy, like, you know how they do, like, you know, like, oh, you know, this on reruns they'll do like, oh, this was a product of its time, right? Or like if somebody died during development, they would say like, oh, in memory of our friend, blah blah blah. Do you think they're gonna do some fucking cheesy thing either at the beginning or the end, you know, to comment on like, oh, the game industry is just so toxic, and you know, this
I
game is
don't
no
think
longer
it's
with
out
us?
of the question, but I also don't think they would do it. I don't think that they would do anything like that.
I would be surprised if that episode airs and there is no like meta comment either when the episode starts or when the episode ends during the credits. Would not surprise me.
Yeah. Apparently, the head of Sony, PlayStation was he made some statement. He was like, "Oh, this is a learning experience for us. Next time we're gonna do more research, keep it in
Yes.
incubation for longer, blah blah blah." It's like, motherfucker, from the moment the game went into beta, into closed beta, anybody with a YouTube channel was like, you need to delay this game. It's not going to turn out good. Here's what's wrong with it. Please
Yeah.
delay it. And no, and they didn't listen. So
The crazy the crazy thing about, like, you mentioned that, right? And that was 100% true, and that's something that we had to deal with. But on the flip side, you know, this guy at the top, he's doing his corporate speech, which he has to. He's got a business to run.
yeah.
But like, the developers, the people making the game, when they were getting critiqued, they called it white noise from
Oh, yeah.
from people that didn't matter, and you had developers and employees from Firewalk on Twitter calling everybody who critiqued the game talentless freaks. Like, yes, you need to like listen to feedback and you need to pay attention better to ideas that you may move ahead with, but like, every part of this game's story, from Sony buying it to the game being developed to early player testing to release, every single part of it was bungled because multiple, or all of the people involved with the process thought they could get away with releasing a product like Concord, just if somebody would eat it up or they'd make their money back eventually.
Yeah. I mean, there's something that we could say right now that we haven't said for the past, 4 weeks or whatever it's been, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
That it's just, again, talking about it longer than the thing has even existed. It was just a laundry list of friend chasing in video games. And it obviously went nowhere. And it was kind of doomed to die from the very beginning. So it's not sad because they got what they deserved.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
it's a $400 million loss, which is crazy.
It's crazy. But it's like anyone could have seen this coming, and everybody who even wanted to give them a little bit of slack, and even people who just wanted to remain professional about it, pointed out the issues that it was going to have. They had multiple off-ramps, even after they had already spent way more money than the game deserved.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't really know what else to say about this, but I have to bring it up at least once because we're never going to talk about it again.
Yeah, and plus we forgot to do it. Like that's what did I say? Like back when it like closed down for the first time, just like it's such a forgettable experience. We forgot to fucking talk about it being officially done, like for 3 weeks in a row. But case closed on that.
Yep. So Concord and Firewalk are no more. That's not coming back. Everyone online who said that, oh, the game is going to make a comeback, they're going to rework it and re-release it, blah, blah. It's not going to happen. It's done. It's over.
Yeah, it's done and over, except for when the secret level episode comes out and whenever they start writing articles about how we just didn't give it a chance and how it was secretly just a phenomenal game that came out at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, no, it was a mediocre game at best that had no vision and no creativity, and it imploded from the moment it launched.
Yes, and I have no sympathy. Like everybody, like you said, it's just like, you got to feel bad for these people. They lost their jobs. It's just like, no.
Even if you wanted to take that stance, all the people that did work at Firewalk, they were like industry veterans from games that are huge names in gaming. Like they'll be fine. They know how to do their job. They'll go to a different studio.
Yeah.
It's whatever. Like they're gonna be fine. So I have no sympathy because they're just gonna move on to the next thing. They'll apply their skills to the next big IP that's going to try to milk their customers dry and for every cent that they're worth.
Yep.
So it's not that big of a loss. It was a loss for Sony. That's it.
Either they'll move on to something better and they'll learn from it, or they won't, and they shouldn't be in those positions to begin with.
Yeah,
it's not exclusive to games. It's just it's a part of the times that we live in where people are just like, aren't you sad that these people lost their jobs? Like, you do a bad job, you lose your job. I like we're so used to seeing people fail upwards that I think it's just, some people just don't know how to handle it when people are held accountable. But it's just like I have a feeling there are corporate people in Sony like that count the numbers and make the decisions that are looking at like the $400 million that went into Concord and want people to die over it. So like you just losing your job, that's like, that's just how things work. All right.
Yeah. So okay, well, moving on from Concord, what story would you like to talk about right now? Because I have like some little things here or there, but there's nothing as huge as we just spoke about.
Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of touch on it, just because it's just more stuff in the industry, it's the Xbox stuff that came out recently.
That's right.
Yeah, like Phil Spencer did an interview with, I believe it was Bloomberg, and they were talking about like different parts of the Xbox ecosystem, and there's a few things where it's just like, I don't know, like, so the two main things that people are taking away from this interview is that yes, the Xbox handheld is still coming, but it's years away from now. It's not even like something that people, I have a feeling based on the way that he talked about it and the timeline that he gave, it's probably not something we're going to see until maybe like a year after the next Xbox, maybe.
Which is kind of crazy to me, considering handhelds are all the rage right now. So why wouldn't you strike when the iron is hot? Unless it's just not ready, which is one thing.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. But the other part you need to remember is that, like, regardless of how handhelds are doing, there is minimal competition in the console space right now. And what that means is everybody's slow on the uptake. Nobody's rushing to do anything. That's a big part of it. But the other thing that he said is, like, he's backtracked on this for like the third time, where he basically said there's no red lines as far as what games can come to the PlayStation. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm gonna say it again. They can't sustain their place in the hardware part of the industry if they keep handling software this way. It's not sustainable. Let's say they eventually make this handheld, right? And it's everything it needs to be. And it's got all the stuff, that they have on there, but it's like that's their ace in the hole. It's like, yeah, sure, we're putting our software everywhere, so there's no incentive to, necessarily buy an Xbox, but look, we have a handheld now. They have a few years. Right. they have a few years before PlayStation jumps back into the ring, and then they're on the back foot again. Which in a way goes back to that competitive point I was talking about before, where like if you force your competitors to play with play a stronger hand in those spaces, that's a good thing actually. I want Sony and Microsoft to be competing in the handheld space with Nintendo, because competition is how we get good things in the industry. But basically, there's only so many times I can beat a dead horse when it comes to Xbox. It's like I cannot stress how catastrophic it would be for the brand if something like a Halo or a Gears makes it to the PlayStation. And I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that from like a console war kind of thing, because that shit's cringe.
Well, no, then you officially get rid of any sort of reason to get an Xbox.
I said this before when we talked about Xbox, where it's just like, if you're looking at it from the business standpoint of an Xbox, you're trying to kind of get some money in your pocket from the software losses you've been taking from just buying everything out, which in this interview I think he also says he's looking to do more acquisitions. It's just, unless they plan to just say like, okay, we're going to have our own box in the space, but we're really making our own money with software, like I can't really see what else he's got planned or what they've got planned at Xbox. And I still think that it is a position that's being pushed down onto him by the higher ups at Microsoft. So he's like in a tough position. I don't blame Phil. I don't hold him up on the pedestal like some people do, but I don't blame him for everything, because he's very clearly being muscled by some of the people there. But it's just like, it's short-sighted. It's really just like, they're playing around at like 60% of what they could really be, and it's like they're lowering the net to 30%, if that makes sense. Like they're basically like preparing for a total loss that they could avoid if they spent the same amount of time just doing the right thing in the industry, right?
I think they are preparing for a total, like it's pretty obvious that they're so far behind. They're just in full desperation mode.
But here's the thing. That's looking at a downward trend, right? That's them looking ahead and say, if we fail at fucking everything for 5 years, we need to be doing this now. There's no the one shining light in the industry being as shitty as it is right now is that if they just did the right thing, right, in the industry, the Xbox could like immediately like stand out on top, right?
And define doing the right thing.
I don't know, like all the like, there's no reason Indiana Jones. I don't give a shit about it. You don't give a shit about it. There's no reason that should be coming to PlayStation. We shouldn't even be humoring Halo, Gears, or Forza going to PlayStation.
Okay, so just common sense stuff then.
Yeah, exactly. With Call of Duty now them owning Call of Duty, right? I'm not saying they should make that exclusive, but the same exclusivity deals that PlayStation did for like the last decade, Xbox should be doing that.
Xbox had that in the beginning of COD anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Xbox had it, then PlayStation, eventually sealed that deal, and that was that. But, now they should be doing the same thing. It should be like, okay, Xbox users get a little early in this and that, and there's a few exclusive things and all this. There's no reason at all that they shouldn't be, doing all like almost like a death of 1,000 cuts kind of things, where it's just like, just build up those incentives. Like they have that incentive base with Game Pass and Game Pass Premium. That's like a small thing to a lot of people, but a lot of people are subscribed to Game Pass, and there are some nice perks built into that system. But it's just like, they spent all this time buying software. The very least they could do is like add that small incentive to their base in nearly everything, and it's like, I wouldn't even call it shameless, just like,
no, it's
like,
just good business.
Yeah, like, hey, even go a step further. Like, let's say, remember when they did Doom and Fallout packs for Call of Duty? Make that Xbox exclusive. Who the fuck cares? Like, seriously, I'm like, we need aggression, we need competition. I'm not saying this is like a guy that owns an Xbox. I'm saying like, we all need these companies to be at the top of their game, and Xbox is like is basically, I don't want to say throw in the towel, because that's stupid. Like, they're not like, there's no, the ship isn't sinking, because at the end of the day, even if they go through with all this stuff that I don't particularly care for, they're going to survive they'll just basically be collecting nickels on fucking everything because of all the software they own, right? So at the end of the day, they'll be fine. It's just, all of this stuff is so unnecessary. They're basically getting ready to throw in a towel in a fight that they could potentially win over the course of 5 years. because the industry is that shitty. Now, if they were like we were just talking about all the older games we love to play, right? If they were fighting against PlayStation 2 era Sony, I would say like, yeah, this is probably the right way. You should just kind of like rest for a little bit and try to collect nickels on its software. And, people say like, oh, but there's so many PlayStation wonderful games. No, they're all coming to the PC the same way that the Xbox is playing nice with everybody's playing nice with everybody except for Nintendo, because Nintendo isn't retarded in that way. They're retarded in other ways. But it's like I want, and this is going to bother you a little bit. I don't want my God of Wars on the PC. I don't want my Halos on the Xbox. These guys,
wouldn't bother. I understand what you're
would,
saying, and I don't entirely disagree.
It inconveniences you as a consumer, and I get that.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I know that like if a God of War comes to the PC, it should be like a year and a half afterwards as like a surprise, not 6 months later as like an expectation.
That was about how long Ragnarok came.
No, like I know that. I'm just saying like, but the usual turn time of like a third party exclusive tends to be 6 months to a year. That's what I was using. Because Sony is going to be playing it conservative too, because they understand they have a huge lead in the console market. So I don't see like I don't think Sony will ever be in a position where they're launching their PC ports in the same frequency that the third party does, at least not in the foreseeable future. Like if the industry were to continue this trend, which I don't think it will, I do, like you mentioned and like we've mentioned constantly, there's going to be turnaround as far as quality, and quality will drive competition if competition doesn't drive quality. But if, like, let's just say the industry just continued to suck for like a decade, I could see them releasing first party games at the same time as console releases, but I don't think we're ever going to reach that point.
I'm pretty sure that the same executive that had the quote of like learning experience after Concord failed so hard also said that they were like, this showed them that their single player games are just as profitable as they ever were.
Yes,
and if they plan on releasing like one big single player IP every year basically going forward. I don't think they gave an expiration on that.
Yeah, see, that's a smart move. I'm wary that they didn't learn the right lessons from shit like Concord and the success of something like an Astrobot, because like that's, instead of like treating it the way that it needs to be treated, that they could just treat that as another well to run dry.
True.
Basically, like the biggest thing that this industry needs is it needs three things. And we're not going to get them, and if we do get them, it's not going to be anytime soon, but we should be striving for it regardless of expectation. Is marketing budgets need to go down.
Yeah.
Get rid of the marketing budgets. Cut them in half. Don't run as great. Like, marketing budgets are like massive as far as like what goes into a game. Like way more.
Yeah, they're way more than they need to be.
Yes, and that ties into the second thing that needs to be done, is we need to understand that not all games are going to be for everybody. I think that goes hand in hand with the marketing budget. I think too much time is spent.
I think you've lost me now. I think every game needs to appeal to the most wide audience possible. Of course.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, that's why, to kind of use this as an example right now, like just because there's two games on my mind, because one is coming to the PC and I'm interested to try it when it does, and the other one just came out. We have, on one hand, we have Stellar Blade, and on the other hand, I have Dragon Age Veilguard. Stellar Blade is a very niche release for a very particular group of people, the kind of people that like slower action games that might be a little tougher but have satisfying combat, and it has a ton of fan service, right? That's not for everybody. And that game ended up, I think it passed 1 million a while ago. And it's getting a PC release later. It's going to collect more money. And then on the other hand, you have Veilguard, which internal reporting and leaks say have just kind of hit 1 million, and it doesn't look like they're going to get another boost. Now, you have two games, that are at that 1 million point. You have a triple game like Vanguard that hit that after like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I forget how long it's been since it came out. And then you have Stellar Blade, which over the course of its lifespan, about a year, I would say we're getting close to a year if we haven't passed it already. And it's comfortably above 1 million, right? And by the raw numbers, you say, like, oh, well, Veilguard obviously sold way more because it hit that like right out the gate. Well, Veilguard has a massive marketing budget. It's a game that's supposed to hold up a studio. It's very divisive. It has a lot of returns. And a parent company like EA is looking at that like a colossal failure, or at the very least, it didn't sell anywhere near where it needed to be. Meanwhile, you have, Stellar Blade, you go back there, and like over time it's sold comfortably. It's a AAA release. They knew their audience. They didn't overspend on marketing. They got a few nice publishing deals, and they're sitting pretty. Now, obviously, there's a difference between AAA and AA, but one of the things, like, if all the points and positives of AAA aren't selling your game, aren't making the games better, you're hiring more people en masse, so your budgets are going up, you're trying to market to as many people as possible, even though they don't really want your game, and the budgets go up. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and so I mean, I said there were three things. Those are really two things off the top of my head that we should really be focusing on. Like, marketing budgets are way too fucking high, and we're trying to appeal to everybody, and those are two key things. I mean, the third thing really is getting rid of people who don't like games. Like, seriously. Like, I don't know why you're here. Like, you're just making, like, they're creatures that live on pure spite. Like, they're the kinds of people that, like, part of the Concord studio that called everybody talentless freaks. There are so many people like that in the industry that hate games, hate gamers, and just want to destroy things or put their own messages into existing IPs. Like, what are we doing here, really?
And then that's just malice. That's not anything else.
Yeah, and it's in every industry right now, but I think those kind of forces are on the downturn. Not saying things are going to heal overnight, but like a lot of those people, like I don't know how much I don't link it to you in news just because it's not really news. It's when we started doing this podcast again, we were talking about we kind of stumbled into another war. Like we were podcasting originally when Gamergate 1 was a thing, and even though nobody's and nobody was really running with Gamergate 2, they tried to make it a thing and they never happened, but there are still like those forces in play, and it's like all these companies that partner with these people are taking massive hits. Square Enix is in a terrible place as an example, one of the biggest partners of that the consultation companies, all these journalists and different outlets are they're hemorrhaging money, all those media
Isn't
outlets.
Kotaku shutting down, or they're
Kotaku,
being bought out?
So we can use, because I'm kind of rambling, we'll just move on to that. The guy who is in the process of ruining Castlevania and Devil May Cry in anime form, I don't know why he wants to buy Kotaku. Figure that
Not shocked.
out. Yeah, like, so my whole thing is like, everybody says they have good intentions from the outgo. He's like, I just want to focus on gaming, trim all the fluff. I'm just like, I have a feeling you've got more going on, and but I mean, Kotaku is like such a shit rag. Like it's there are so many, like, it's funny and sad, and probably also why they do it. There are so many different outlets I only remember just because I know they're terrible outlets. Kotaku is one of them. There's I don't even want to give them any attention, but there's a shit ton of like online outlets for media, be it games or all these other places that are just dog shit, and they're run by terrible people, and they're running all these articles that appeal to nobody, or are part of the forces that just ruin games over the last decade. It's just a miserable fucking experience. But yes, Kotaku is somebody, people are interested in buying Kotaku because they are, after all these different controversies over the years, they are like, they can't take much more of it, and they've been laying people off constantly. So
it's also a big name.
Yeah,
I like that has something to do with it.
Yeah, it's I don't know why. Like, I would prefer if all of these names and legacies, even for something as shitty as a Kotaku, just like, I would prefer, like, if it just fails to just go away. I don't buy under new management will really fix it. Like, why would you buy something with that? Like, if I, like, let's say, me and you were just loaded tomorrow, right? We like talking about games and whatnot. Would we go and buy an outlet that has a shitty, terrible reputation to give its audience that is for some reason still around something they don't want? Like, the people that read Kotaku still are probably either people that, like, have no idea what the fuck's going on, or hate people like you and me anyway. So, like, how do you turn something like that around when it has a reputation of sucking for years,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Quite the conundrum.
Yeah, we rambled for a bit there, but yeah, the point is, the long and short of it is that, like, Xbox is making questionable moves. there is some kind of light at the end of the tunnel for this, but I'm still, whenever we talk about Xbox or Sony, I always come down to it and I say, like, listen, neither of them are playing their best game. So Xbox gets a lot of shit because it's has a longer streak of just fucking up in various ways, but nobody is where they need to be. So,
well, story of the industry's life.
apparently.
Anywho, well, moving on from that, I mean, the only other things that I wanted to bring up are pretty small. One of them, but how familiar are you with Path of Exile?
Just from our conversations and what little I've seen of it.
Well, they're going into early access in early December, and they released a new teaser today because eh, they're having like a beta or something. No, they're like a full reveal, I think, in a couple days, and then the early access launches on December 5th. Um, but I bring it up because, like, how my thoughts on Diablo 4. Like, I like it well enough. I like the whole tone of it and everything. They showed the Grinding Gear Games showed their like sizzle reel. It was like 2 minutes long. It was a pretty long sizzle reel of different stuff and snippets from Path of Exile 2, and it looks way, way better than Diablo 4. And it's I don't because the first one was free to play. I don't know if Path of Exile 2 is supposed to be free to play. But I do know that they are basically merging the two games together. All your account status, all your purchases, everything like that, it's all being ported over into Path of Exile 2. And the game, as far as like detail and what the gameplay looks like, and it all looks phenomenal. My biggest issue is that you basically needed a PhD in the game in the first one to like navigate the menus and the systems and the skill trees. It was a fucking nightmare. And I even have I played it like I gave it a fair shake. I have 15 hours in Path of Exile 1. And like I'm like I just gotta put this down. It's just too much. It's just too much. And I saw a screenshot of the Path of Exile 2 skill tree, and it looks way bigger. But I just hope the systems involved with like navigating it aren't as overwhelming as they were in the first game. But my main takeaway overall is that it looks great. It looks really, really good. And they have did Diablo do couch co-op?
Diablo, which Diablo?
4.
I think 3 did. I don't know if 4 did. I wouldn't
I don't
have
know
the means to test.
Yeah, that was like a pretty big marketing thing for Grinding Gear Games that they have couch co-op with Path of Exile 2. And
That's good.
I don't know, it's a good touch in my
Oh, it
opinion.
is. It is.
Yeah.
It should. Couch co-op is one of those things where it's just like everybody at this point should know how to implement. It's just one of those features that once you figure out, it's really something that should be simple enough to implement in any game that really makes sense to support it. And I'm glad it hangs in there because there's still enough demand for it.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're charging for Path of Exile 2. You might need to pay to get into early access, but I don't know if you need to pay a premium for the actual game itself once it launches. But I'm still gonna keep my ear to the ground for that game because I always enjoy a good RPG like like an action RPG. Or I'm sorry, you get really specific with this.
Yes.
Isometric ARPG.
An isometric
Right?
RPG.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm
it's
gonna
or
keep my eye on
CRPG,
it.
whatever you want to call it. But I'm sitting here, and you may have heard me laugh just a little bit over time because I
Tend to ignore those little chuckles.
I think it's great that you saw a game and you're excited for it, but it gets to me a little bit because I find it
How so?
because like you lead with. So with Diablo, and I compare it to Diablo, and Diablo doesn't look nearly as appealing as Path of Exile does.
Well, I was
And-
gonna say Last Epoch also because I
Okay.
do have a bunch of time in Last Epoch as well.
But it's like whenever you look at these different games, I'm just like, oh, this game looks so much more appealing. And then I immediately remember the fact that Diablo 3 and then again with Diablo 4 made changes to appeal to like you and Eric and all the people we know that play it, specifically because you guys occasionally look for games to just shut your brain off and play. But when it comes to you sitting down and like looking for like a quality experience, you'll look at something like a Path of Exile and go like, this looks much more quality and something I'd like to sink my teeth into. And I'm just sitting here scratching my head going, why the fuck did we do this to the Diablo series if you're just going to go looking for something else anyway?
Well,
And
no,
at the
I
same
think that they're
time,
two very different experiences. Like,
But-
I think that no, hold on, hold on.
But my point, I get where you're saying, where you're going, where they're very different experiences. They Diablo 2 and the route it was going and the route it was on when it came to things like talent trees and, you know, changing your gear and modifying your gear was a lot like those traditional experiences which Path of Exile is trying to emulate. So you are correct in saying they're very different experiences now, but the point is it was never like, if Diablo was just left to its own devices and didn't try to appeal to as many people as possible, it would have that same appeal as you see in a Path of Exile. That's what I'm getting at. That's why I found it funny.
I don't know. I think that if I wanted an RPG to like really apply myself to, yeah, I would go Path of Exile more than Diablo because there's just more to it.
Yeah.
But
Where
my
Diablo
complaint
used
with
to
the
be.
systems and the UI and how they lay everything out is like still remains with Path of Exile 1. It's too much like at the same time.
Yes.
Um,
And
and Diablo is like, okay, you have one skill tree that runs down vertically and then a couple of offshoots. But
yes.
in Path of Exile, it's like, oh, here's a whole bunch of shit you can choose from. Here's really fine-tune the build that you're trying to go for. And it's definitely Diablo is definitely more turn my brain off than Path of Exile, or Last Epoch. So they're definitely very different experiences. I don't think that it's like they're gonna do to Path of Exile what how they changed Diablo. I think that's a little unfair.
No, I'm not saying that it will, which is humorously enough, you said like, I kind of wish it was less complicated, which means that there are other people saying they kind of wish it was less complicated, which means
It was
possible.
not as user friendly. That's the
Yes.
better term.
But I wasn't getting at the fact that I'm like, they're going to simplify Path of Exile. I'm saying you appreciate Path of Exile for its complexity and, you know, it's more the fact that it has more things in depth, when Diablo was initially on that path and had those things in Diablo 1 and 2, which were a bit more complex and not shut your brain off, but it changed itself in order to cater to the type of mindset that you and Eric and the other people that we know are, where it's just like, new Diablo's out, and then you guys, you know, you'll sit around.
All right, well, sometimes I want a little bit of both. I don't know what to tell you.
But I'm saying, it's not a situation. It's like, I'm not saying like, oh, you should have been there for this or that, because it's the unfortunate reality is like, I'm fighting for hypotheticals here. It is like, I would have much preferred a universe where Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 were giving you the satisfaction of what you're seeking in Path of Exile, and there was another, you know, CRPG that didn't necessarily take from a legacy of an existing
but that's
series.
just because you like Diablo.
Well, I'm not. I like 1 and 2.
It's the same thing but reversed.
And it's more natural that way. Like, why should an existing series cripple itself based on
it's also because that's who's in charge of that existing series. Like,
I know.
you're just a little bit more biased towards Diablo, which is fine.
Not necessarily. No, like I said, I like Diablo 1 and I like Diablo 2. It's not like it's
And that's where it
I feel
ends.
I feel less passionate about what happened to Diablo than I do about other games that I've talked about. Like, you know, I don't like the way that Dead Rising went. I don't like the way that Guilty Gear went. There's a lot of different games where I'm a bit more impassioned about it, but the root cause is the same as what I'm getting at. I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying pointing, mindless consumers like you. I'm just saying I always find it amusing when I talk to somebody like you, who is, you know, someone that can appreciate, you know, when you sit down and play a game, you are never the kind of guy that calls for those changes, and you appreciate games for what they are. And I find it funny.
I like to think so.
Yeah, when I find it funny when, like, even though you would never in a million years say this series needs to change for me, you will have the comments that other people would have, and those other people will always say, like, this game needs to change for me. So I found it amusing that you sat in a game that, like, you know, that essentially Diablo would have became or would have been closer to if it wasn't trying to cater to more people, if that makes sense. That's why I found it funny. And to kind of, you know, summarize my points on it. Yes, I would prefer series stick to what they're known for and stay true to themselves and have another game be made. You know, I would prefer Diablo be where it is or where it would have been if it never tried to cater to other people, and then like maybe another series come out, like, you know, what was that one kind of cyberpunky one, which was also kind of very much shut your brain off and just run through. It was on Game Pass. Something Ascendant.
The Ascent?
The Ascent. That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, that's not the same. That was just a twin stick shooter.
Well, it still had the RPG elements. It just didn't matter.
Very light. Yeah.
But that's what I'm getting. Yeah, like I said, it's difficult. Talking to me about these things, I understand it's difficult because
it's very difficult, Anthony.
Because it's like everything's got to be just so a certain way, and I'm very picky, and I argue about like, oh, wouldn't this perfect scenario be perfect? And it's like, yeah, but I like this. You know, it's tough.
Right,
I get it.
Hypotheticals.
Yes.
It's whatever.
Listen, yes, I found it funny. That's all. That after we talked about, you know, games, you know, of the modern times changing themselves for a different audience and trying to get as much time out of you as possible, we immediately ran into an example of it. That's all. I was tickled in a very morbid kind of way as I looked at.
Well, there's nothing wrong like, as long as the option is there for me to go back and experience those quality games, then fine. But I think it's much less of a priority now than it ever has been before.
If you say so.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's. I don't have anything else to talk about. All right. Well, I guess with that's probably about as good a spot as any to wrap it up.
Yeah.
That was episode 30, right?
Yes.
That's what we said.
Episode 30. Yeah.
30. Yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you know, whatever happens this week, I'm sure we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
So on that note, thank you very much for listening. The 4 people who are listening.
Oh my god.
And every week the number will just get lower. And we'll catch you next time.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.